September 12, 1944, Heereswaffenamt headquarters, Berlin. The conference room smelled like stale cigarettes and defeat. 8 Panzer commanders sat around a wooden table scarred by years of wartime planning. In the center, stacks of loss reports, maintenance logs, and casualty assessments. Major Hans von Luck broke the silence. "Gentlemen, we need to discuss what these numbers are telling us. Our Panther tanks are killing more of our men than the enemy is." No one disagreed. They'd all seen it. Panthers burning without being hit. Panthers throwing tracks during approach marches. Panthers with transmissions that seized up after 80 kilometers. Panthers whose engines caught fire while idling. The Panther tank, officially designated Panzerkampfwagen 5 Panther, was supposed to be Germany's answer to Soviet T-34s and American Shermans. Rushed into production after the shock of encountering T-34s on the Eastern Front, the Panther combined heavy frontal armor, a powerful 75mm gun, and good mobility. On paper, it was perfect. In reality, it was a nightmare. Captain Otto Carius, a Tiger tank ace, spoke first. "I've commanded Tigers for 2 years. Reliable, deadly, effective. Last month, they gave me a Panther. It caught fire during the approach march, before we even saw the enemy. Transmission failed. The engine compartment was so hot the fire extinguishers didn't work. 3 crew members burned to death getting out." Major Becker nodded. "My battalion received 30 Panthers in June. By August, 22 were destroyed or abandoned. Enemy fire accounted for 6. The other 16? Mechanical failure. Thrown tracks, transmission failures, engine fires. We lost more tanks to our own equipment than to American guns." This wasn't anecdotal frustration. This was systematic catastrophe. The Panther's problems began with its rush development. After German forces encountered Soviet T-34s in 1941, Hitler demanded a new medium tank immediately. The design process that should have taken years was compressed into months. MAN AG submitted the winning design in September 1942. Production began in January 1943, barely 4 months later. Normal testing protocols were abandoned. Early production Panthers went straight from factory to front line with minimal trials. The result? A tank that looked magnificent and performed terribly. The Panther's final drive, the gearbox connecting the engine to the drive sprockets, was catastrophically under-engineered. It was designed for a 30-ton tank. The production Panther weighed 45 tons. Mathematics and physics don't negotiate. The final drives failed constantly. Lieutenant Willie Fay, an engineering officer, presented the data. Average life expectancy of Panther final drives, 150 kilometers. Some units report failures at 80 kilometers. The drive teeth strip under load. When they fail during combat, the tank is immobilized. Immobilized tanks get destroyed. "Can we fix it?" someone asked. We redesigned it. The new version lasts 300 kilometers, still inadequate. The problem is fundamental. The entire drivetrain is overstressed. To properly fix it, we'd need to redesign the hull, suspension, and engine mounting. That would essentially mean building a new tank. Germany didn't have time to build new tanks. They were losing ground on both fronts. They needed Panthers now, even if those Panthers were flawed. The engine problems were equally severe. The Maybach HL230P30 engine was powerful, 700 horsepower, but temperamental. The engine compartment was cramped, making maintenance difficult. Fuel lines ran close to hot exhaust components. The result? Panthers caught fire spontaneously. Major Werner described it. "We lost 8 Panthers to engine fires in July. No combat, no enemy contact. The tanks were sitting in assembly areas waiting for orders. Crews heard popping sounds from the engine, then flames. Some crews escaped, some didn't. The fire suppression systems don't work fast enough. The manual fire extinguisher system required the crew to manually operate valves while the engine bay was already burning. Automatic systems existed on later models, but early Panthers had nothing. Crews resorted to carrying extra fire extinguishers, purchased privately, and placing them near escape hatches. The transmission was another disaster. The Panther used the AK-7 to 200 gearbox, a pre-selector design that was advanced but fragile. Drivers needed extensive training to operate it correctly. In combat conditions, stressed drivers would shift improperly and destroy the gearbox. A destroyed gearbox meant a 45-ton immobile target. Recovery vehicles often couldn't reach disabled Panthers before they were destroyed by enemy fire or abandoned. Captain Ribbentrop, a veteran of the Eastern Front, shared his experience. At Kursk, we advanced with 40 Panthers. After 3 days, 11 were operational. 29 were destroyed or broken down. We counted the wrecks afterward. Enemy fire destroyed 12. Mechanical failure destroyed or disabled 17. We were more dangerous to ourselves than the Russians were. The Kursk offensive in July 1943 was the Panther's combat debut. It was a disaster that validated every fear about rushed production. Panthers broke down during approach marches. Engines overheated. Transmissions failed. The few that reached combat performed well when they worked. But reliability is everything in armored warfare. A tank that breaks down before reaching the battle is useless, regardless of its theoretical capabilities. The maintenance burden was crushing. Panthers required extensive upkeep. The Maybach engine needed frequent adjustment. The transmission needed careful handling. The final drives needed replacement after minimal mileage. German maintenance units couldn't keep up. They lacked spare parts, trained mechanics, and time. As the war progressed and Germany lost industrial capacity, the parts shortage became critical. Lieutenant Kruger, a maintenance officer, explained, "We cannibalize 3 Panthers to keep 1 operational. Every battalion has a parts tank that doesn't move. We just strip components from it. When that's exhausted, we abandon Panthers that could be repaired because we don't have the parts or time to fix them." The Americans and British noticed this. Intelligence reports documented Panthers abandoned with relatively minor damage, thrown tracks, failed transmissions, engine problems. Damage that could be repaired if Germany had the logistics to support their armor. They didn't. German supply lines were collapsing under Allied air superiority. Trucks carrying spare parts were destroyed en route. Repair facilities were bombed. Trained mechanics were killed or captured. The Panther's complexity made everything worse. American Shermans could be repaired by competent mechanics with basic tools. Panthers required specialized knowledge and specialized tools. A Sherman's transmission could be swapped in a day. A Panther's transmission replacement took a week if you had the parts. Major Becker showed photographs. This is a Panther abandoned near Caen. Enemy damage, 1 track hit, repairable in 4 hours. Why was it abandoned? The crew had no tools to make the repair. This one near Falaise, transmission failure. The recovery vehicle couldn't reach it before the Allied advance. This one, engine fire. Crew escaped but couldn't extinguish it. The conference reviewed Allied intelligence assessments, captured documents that showed what the enemy thought of German armor. American tankers feared Tigers. British intelligence warned about the Tiger's gun and armor. But Panthers? Allied reports noted their mechanical unreliability. Some Allied commanders preferred facing Panthers over Panzer IVs because Panthers broke down more often. "They're not wrong," Captain Reamer admitted. "My Panzer IV company has better operational readiness than Panther battalions. The 4th is old, outgunned, under-armored, but it works. It reaches the battle. That matters more than perfect specifications." The room discussed solutions. Simplified production. Too late. Factories were already committed. Better training for crews. There wasn't time or fuel for extensive driver training. More spare parts. German industry was being bombed into rubble. Someone suggested abandoning the Panther entirely and focusing on proven designs. The suggestion was met with bitter laughter. Hitler personally championed the Panther. Criticizing it was political suicide. Production would continue regardless of the problems. The conversation turned to crew morale. Panther crews were skilled, experienced tankers, Germany's best. They'd been given superior equipment and told to destroy enemy armor. Instead, they were burning to death in their own tanks before seeing the enemy. Lieutenant Schwartz, a platoon leader. I've lost 3 Panthers to fires. My men are terrified. They trust American .50 caliber bullets less than they trust our own engines. When we mount up, everyone double-checks their escape hatches. Everyone carries private fire extinguishers. We're fighting our equipment as much as the enemy. The psychological impact was severe. Tank crews need confidence in their vehicles. They need to trust that their armor will protect them, that their engines will run, that their transmissions won't fail during combat. Panther crews had no such confidence. They knew their tanks were death traps. They knew that mechanical failure was more likely than enemy fire. They fought anyway because they were professionals and Germans and they'd been ordered to fight. But the knowledge ate at them. The Americans had mechanical problems too. Shermans threw tracks, engines failed, transmissions broke. But Sherman failures were manageable. Crews could often repair them. Recovery vehicles could reach them. Spare parts existed. Panther failures were catastrophic. A thrown track meant abandonment. An engine fire meant death or escape with burns. A transmission failure meant immobility and destruction. Major von Luck presented the final statistics. In Normandy, from June through August, Panther battalions reported 692 total losses. Enemy action accounted for 296. Mechanical failure, fires, and abandonment due to mechanical issues accounted for 396. We're losing more Panthers to our own design flaws than to enemy action. The room absorbed this. Germany's supposedly superior tank was killing Germans more effectively than it was killing Allies. Someone asked the inevitable question, do we tell the High Command? Silence. Everyone knew the answer. The High Command didn't want to hear about problems. They wanted to hear about victories. Reporting that the Panther was fatally flawed would be dismissed as defeatism, or worse. We write technical reports, Major Becker finally said. We document the failures. We recommend fixes. We do our jobs. What happens after that is beyond our control. The meeting concluded with no solutions, just shared understanding. The Panther would continue in production. Crews would continue dying in fires and mechanical failures. The war would continue until Germany had no tanks left, whether destroyed by enemies or by their own design flaws. The commanders filed out. Major von Luck remained, staring at the photographs of burned Panthers. Perfect tanks on paper. Coffins in practice. The final irony. By war's end, Germany had produced over 6,000 Panthers. American forces captured hundreds intact or nearly intact, abandoned due to mechanical failure. Post-war testing by Allied engineers confirmed everything the German commanders had said. The Panther was magnificently designed and catastrophically executed. It had potential to be the best tank of the war. Instead, it became a case study in rushed development, inadequate testing, and the failure to balance performance with reliability. American tankers who faced Panthers learned not to fear them at long range, just wait for them to break down. British after-action reports noted that Panther mechanical failures often exceeded combat losses during engagements. The German commanders who sat in that Berlin conference room knew all this in September 1944. They knew they were sending men to die in tanks that were as dangerous to their crews as to the enemy. They kept fighting because they were soldiers and because Germany was losing and because stopping meant surrender. But they knew. The Panther was killing Germans.